Hello everyone. Most of you know me as Joshua Fajo, and a few of you now know me as Joshua Jones, which is what, from this point forward, I'll be going as, Joshua Jones. I'm doing this video unscripted. There's a few things that I've written down and jotted down as notes, but I wanted to let everyone know the sincerity behind what I am trying to accomplish, the truth behind what I'm trying to accomplish, and obviously I want to have it unscripted, and so that way you can see that I am being honest and truthful on this. Um, so really, I want to show you what I'm trying to accomplish and why. And first off, I kind of want to go over an overview of the problems in America. I want people to better understand them and see how closely they are related. I don't think people understand how closely all the problems in America are, and how closely they're related, and really how they lead down to one root or a few couple roots, and all these problems come from them roots. So first off, one thing that I want to mention, I guess, in the first problem that I want to bring up is violence. Obviously, in America, we've become very, very, very violent. I'd like to use, I guess, Orlando as an example. And first off, I want to say that, me and my organization are greatly apologetic to the people that were affected by both of the incidents that happened in Orlando. And it's a shame what happened, and we hope to in the future prevent other things like this from happening, and to reduce violence and reduce crimes of this nature. So thinking of that, of the Orlando incident, obviously some people say terrorism, some people maybe not. Some people say the government. Everybody has their own theory and what they believe. But looking at this violence, obviously violence is growing in America. People are becoming more violent. But, was it that this person really was a terrorist and that's all he wanted to do was destroy this nation? Or was it that he was upset and hopeless about this nation, or that maybe there was other factors that were involved that we didn't pay attention to as a nation? And essentially why I bring this up is not to stand up for that person, because obviously what he did was very, very wrong. Words can't even describe it, really. But looking at that and getting down to the root of the problem of that, maybe we can fix other issues. Maybe we can solve this from happening again. I think hope has caused a lot of violence in this nation, or the lack thereof. People are struggling. People, the survival instincts have kicked in, and some people look at survival as, that's the strength in us, that's that's good. But I don't believe survival is. I believe survival is actually very harmful and destructive to our nation. As soon as our survival instincts kick in, we start thinking only of ourselves and maybe our kin. We don't think about the rest of our family. We don't think about our friends. We're concerned about making sure we survive, and that's our main focus. And not only do I feel like that's highly kicked in, but I feel like everyone has become like that. Everyone's become very greedy and selfish and just trying to make it by, and not caring about other people or trying to help other people out that are suffering. And really, it's making more and more and more of a gap. It's not actually bringing us together. It's gapping us even farther apart. It's gapping our money even farther apart, and making people poorer, and making us ourselves even poorer because we're not working together. It's making people violent. It's putting people in that corner. Once you take everything away from someone, what do they have? Nothing. And that's going to make them violent. I don't think people understand that. I mean, if we look at felons, I guess, is a good example, and even drug abusers as a very good example. It's something that's reoccurring. Child molesters, I guess we'll use that too. All of them are reoccurring. It happens over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's a recycling event that just keeps happening over and over and over, and you have to break the cycle. You have to break the cycle, and our current cycle is to, all right, well, he's a thief, he's a felon, he's a drug abuser, he's a child molester. All these things, obviously not very good, not good at all, you know. But are we going to condemn them? And that's going to make them better? That's going to make society better by us condemning people? You know, dragging people down? Not at all. You know, our prison system, how is this set up that, you know, I'm going to go and steal, or I'm going to go and shoot someone, or I'm going to go and commit an act of violence or harm people, whatever it may be. Okay, now for X number of days, you're going to sit in a cell. You're going to sit in jail just for X number of days. Not, let's get to the root of the problem that caused you to do that and fix you. Let's fix you, rehabilitate you. You know, it's supposed to be a rehabilitating system. You know, if you're a drug abuser, you get rehabilitated. What if you're a violent abuser? You should be rehabilitated. What if you're a sex abuser? Rehabilitated. Every single thing should be rehabilitated. It doesn't make sense the way that our system is set up now. Let's look at, you know, let's look at drugs for instance. You know, about 20,000 people die per year induced by drugs. All drugs, you know, I should say harsh drugs, you know, heroin, marijuana, even though nobody dies from that, cocaine, whatever it may be, all of the drugs, total, 20,000 people die. Yet 85,000 people die from alcohol, and that's perfectly legal. You know, 440,000 people die from tobacco each and every year, yet that's perfectly legal. Now, we're spending all of our time and resources. We got the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency. We got, you know, police officers, you know, tearing down doors and knocking down doors to take down these people that maybe have marijuana or whatever drug, you know, and are affecting themselves, not so much their community. You know, maybe I guess if there was violence there, then yeah, shut them down for the violence. But yet I'm seeing people getting locally and nationally, people getting arrested for grow homes and this and that, which is, I guess, fine. But to all those police officers and to everyone that is watching that and supporting that, do you really sleep better at night in your bed because someone isn't growing down the road, or because these people aren't selling drugs? Is that really, do you feel safer because of that? I don't think so at all. The violence is still there. The hate, the pain, the same exact problems are there. You know, not only that, we've been wasting money after loads of money on this drug war that will never win. I don't think people have understood that yet. You'll never ever win. As long as there's a need and a will, there's always going to be a way. I think we've said that many times throughout time, but we haven't actually thought about that. It hasn't actually registered in our brains. You can never win. As long as people want it, they're going to have it. That's how it's going to be. Not only that, how many times has it got released that the CEA or the DEA or the feds or whoever released this amount of drugs into our communities, or this amount of guns into our communities, or this amount of money into our communities that went to the gangs? You know, what are the only reason that the gangs thrive and survive? Drugs. And how do they do that? Because it's illegal. That's the only way, and that's the only thing they don't. I mean, they might sell a few guns here and there, but guess what? They don't sell mass amounts of guns. No, they sell drugs, and that's the only way that they survive. And they thrive with violence and stealing and theft and all the things that we are completely against. You know, why are we wasting our time on that when we should be wasting our time? Look at this Orlando incident. You know, what if all the police would have been directed on focusing on drugs or focusing on the things that aren't important, aren't dire to our life, you know, instead of violence? What if they could have got there sooner? You know, recently I had to call the police for an incident here where a dog got hit I in the middle of the road and was running around, you know, stopping traffic, and it was very disruptive. Obviously, it wasn't of the utmost importance, but in the end, I don't know, a half an hour later, no police officers were still around, and they're maybe a minute away from where the incident happened. A minute. I mean, they're right around the corner. And it hit me. I mean, What if I would have got hit, or one of my children would have got hit? What if someone would have got shot? What if something more severe would have happened and there was no response? There wasn't a response in time. I'm hearing about it more and more in America that this is an issue. Our police departments, our police force, our enforcement agencies are tied up. They don't have the resources. The resources are being spent in other areas that don't make sense. I mean, look at all the people for drugs, and again, they're only affecting themselves, that are sitting in jail, that are being fed, that can be contributing to society, but instead are sitting in jail, and we're paying for that. All of us taxpayers are paying for that. Not only that, when they get out, we're condemning them and treating them like criminals, and essentially they go back to doing the same exact thing. They struggle to get a job. They struggle to survive. Should we really add to that? I mean, do we appreciate in America, do we appreciate homelessness? Do we appreciate joblessness? Do we appreciate seeing that person standing on a corner holding a sign? Is that what it's came to, that we like seeing that? I don't think so. I don't think any of us like seeing that. But yet we promote that. We push that. We cause that. Again, getting back to our problems. I mean, huge problems. Retirement. We're losing retirement. When I go to retire, I don't believe that it's going to be there. I don't believe Social Security is going to be around. The more and more I look at it and follow it, how could it possibly be around? How? With our national debt. Currently, our national debt is $19 trillion. $19 trillion. That's a lot of money. And that's just federal government, I guess, debt. That's just for them. Not our personal debt, but the government debt. So now, let's look back at 2009. In 2009, guess what our government debt was? Or our national debt? It was only 9 to 10 trillion. So in the past 6 years, it's doubled. Along with, same goes for our personal debt. Our personal debt has doubled, tripled in that same amount of time, just from 2009 to now. How could our country possibly be here 20 years from now with those stats? It's impossible. Think of that. Currently our welfare budget is $1 trillion, over $1 trillion. I believe what the government brings in yearly, and let me just look real quick, is about $3.3 trillion. So we bring in $3.3 trillion in taxes, and out of that, 1/3 of that is going to go to welfare. So essentially, our country, which welfare is huge, humongous, so many people rely on welfare. Now, with our debt going up and up and up and up and up, what if welfare disappears? Currently, what if welfare, that $1 trillion disappeared? No longer was it around because the government no longer had the money. How many people would die? How many people would starve? How many children would starve? How many children would disappear? How would that cause? It would cause destruction of our nation. It would cause chaos, madness. I don't think people understand that, and we're going closer and closer and closer to that. The retirement is a financial issue. Homelessness, financial issue. Our national debt, financial issue. Needy, financial issue. Our political and government problems, financial issue. Unemployment, financial issue. Poverty, hunger, financial issue. Taxes, financial issue. Crime and violence. You may not say a financial issue, but absolutely, I say financial issue. And more than that, it's condemning, it's putting people in a corner, it's that survival instinct. I think that's where violence comes from. It comes from that survival instinct. People say, well, violent people are just violent. I think it's in all of us. I think it's part of human nature. Back in way past caveman time, I'm pretty sure we were pretty vile and violent. Looking at Indian time, Indian-French War, the Civil War, violence has always been a part of our past. It's when we're put in a corner, when our defenses are up, that's when we become vile, when we become violent. You know, I believe that's exactly where we're going. Now we're all being pushed in corners again. You know, I recently watched this show on Information Discovery, um, and it was about a senator or a politician, a governor, I guess, is what he ended up being. But he was completely against violence. He fought against violence. He changed laws to make sure that violent people were put away, to make sure domestic violence was ended, to make sure that people were safe. He gave to the needy. He was really, everyone resorted to him and relayed that he was a great guy. He was a very giving guy. He cared about people. Yet one day, I don't know the exact whole story, but one day an ex put him in a corner. An ex destroyed his career. And what did he do? He went and killed that ex. This is a man that was completely against violence, stood against violence, was never violent in his life, you know, helped out the needy, loved people, wanted change, wanted a better America. Yet when he was put in that corner, what happened? Violence came out. That's why I say I believe violence is in all of us. It doesn't matter who you are, it just matters how far you're pushed. Certain people obviously have a stronger willpower than others, you know. Getting down to that, and that being said, I believe that we can change America. I believe it's not that we have a bad America or bad people in America. We've lost our hope. We've lost our beliefs. We've lost our belief in our government and hope for our government, and vice versa. I believe our government really has probably lost hope in us. We look like very lazy creatures, I guess, to them. You know, we don't want to work hard. Now we've allowed the system, the welfare system. It's almost easier to live on the welfare system and just relax. And you know, obviously you struggle a little bit to get by, most certainly. But yet you're not having to bust your ass and be away from your family when you're making the same amount. And that's really why welfare has become huge in America, is because now it really, what's better for you, to work and struggle to get by, or to be on welfare, not have to work, and at least get to spend time with your family? Well, obviously people are going to go that route. And not only that, beyond that, welfare, and I'm reading more and more about this, and I suggest everyone looking this up, and hopefully eventually I can educate the public about this, but I'm reading more and more that welfare pushes people to separate, pushes people to be individuals, because people that are together, it's very hard and difficult for them to get welfare. But individuals, single mothers, single fathers, they're the people that get welfare, and they push for that. That's causing a big problem too. That's causing the separation of families. Separation of families ruins our youth. It essentially is our violence. Where a lot of our violence is coming from. It's coming from our youth. It's coming from people my generation. You know, and I believe it's really down to the parents. You know, people, you hear it all the time. They say it's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault. And before, you know, I was like, how can it be? You know, it is. Even if it's not their fault, in the end, it's their fault. You know, a lot of times it may not be their fault. You know, they have to work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. You know, they're away from their child. They're struggling to make sure that that child has food on the table and a roof over their head. You know, they're doing their due diligence. They're forced to be like that. And that, now you're taking away that support group. You're taking away the support that the family has. So now that child is going to go find another support group. You know, we strive for support groups. You know, we all want support. You want support. I want support. We all want support. You know, that's what we strive for. We strive to have a team, to have friends, to have family. You know, so obviously they're going to find it somewhere, whether it be with family, or rather it be with the group of hoodlums, the group of kids that all their families are struggling. They have no support group. You know, they can't afford that Xbox. So now let's go and steal. Let's go and sell drugs. I mean, people have to understand the causes and effects of everything. It's really down to a few problems, and we need to get down to the roots of these problems. And that's what causes all problems. You know, as far as the education system, the jail system, inequality, healthcare, terrorism. Let's get down to terrorism for a second. ISIS is very huge right now. But how did they become that huge? And not only how did they become that huge, but how many people from this nation are leaving each year or each day or each month to go and join their fight, to go and join ISIS's fight? I know that sounds very crazy, but guess what? It happens. Each and every day, each and every month, each and every year. People are leaving here, leaving Europe, leaving wherever, and joining this fight. Why? Do people even think that? Do people even understand that? I think we should ask ourselves why. I don't believe that it's because that terrorist group is superior and people really want to be a part of that group and destroy nations and destroy people. Do I believe that? No, not at all. I believe, again, it's down to people have lost hope. People, those survival instincts are kicking in. People have lost their support system. I believe really we need to get down to the foundation of America. That's where we need to start. We need to start at the bottom, at our structure, at our foundation, and fix that. We need to make lives better for Americans. And how can we do that? For one, by having their voices heard. As I'm going around and doing these surveys and talking to people, that's the biggest thing that I see. Nobody feels that their voice is being heard. Nobody feels that there's hope or that America is going to get changed. Everybody feels it's going to get worse. Everybody feels they've lost hope and they're just riding along. That's disastrous. People should have hope. People should know that there is someone there to help them at all times. That's how we thrive and we'll get by. It gives us a goal and something to strive for and to fight for. Speaking of all these problems, I'd like everyone to think, who's going to solve these problems? Retirement, who's going to solve that? Homelessness, who's going to fix that? Joblessness, who's going to bring jobs back to America? Our deficit, currently it's $510 billion per year. It's over $510 billion per year. Tell me something. Who's going to fix that? That means $510 billion are getting tacked onto our national debt, just government debt, per year. Who's going to fix that? Obviously, it has to get fixed. It has to end. Otherwise, we will end. Who's going to fix that? I don't think anyone can answer that. I think everyone's going to say, I have no clue. We hope for the government to fix that. We hope to believe in our leaders. Should we just wait for our leaders to fix everything? Hope that they're going to have the same mindset as us and say, oh, well, this definitely needs to be fixed. Let's focus on it. I don't think so. I think there's a million other things that they're focused on. I think we need to start taking change into our own hands. That we need to come together as a nation and try to fix our own problems. Again, I brought up our national debt and I brought up our welfare. What if the government collapsed tomorrow? We've seen it shut down before. What if it shut down tomorrow and no more welfare? Then what? What are you all going to do? What are we all going to do? What about our family that's struggling to get by? What about our friends that are struggling to get by? Or that are on that welfare? What about all the mothers and children that are on that welfare? I think that's very scary. And I think for the fact that our communities cannot support themselves, that is the most disastrous problem that we possibly can have. If communities were able to support themselves, retirement, would that be a problem? No. Homelessness? No. Our national debt, I'm sure it would be still a problem, but we can work to fix it now. We can work towards fixing it. Maybe we'd have extra money. That $1 trillion, if everything was supported through the communities, and say we reduced it, that $1 trillion to half even. Now we have $500 billion extra that's going out. Say we made it $510 billion. Now we have zero deficit. At least we're not having more tacked on each and every year. Makes logical sense, right? I mean, helping the needy. If our communities were supportive, had their own support system, that would be done. Unemployment, poverty, hunger, taxes, child abuse, welfare, our economy, our export, so many things would be fixed. We really need to get down to the structure and fix that. Anyway, so all of that being said, I only see two ways that America can possibly get itself out of these problems. There's only two ways to get ourselves out of all these problems. I very much hope that we choose the first way that I'm going to mention, but there's always that second option, but it's just not as green and not as happy of an option. So the first option is, we can all band together behind a non-governmental organization. An organization that takes all of our beliefs, all of our voices, weighs them all out, and finds out what the best option for us is and what we want and our desires. And then they act upon that. They mention it to the people, they raise awareness, they build the people as support behind them as an organization, all the people supporting behind them and their voices and what they want, and we cause change, we force change. One thing that I hear a lot is that we don't know our leadership's agendas. We don't know what our leadership wants. We don't even know our leadership. Beyond that, I hear conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory about our government this, and they're doing that, and they're doing that. Well, why don't we figure this out? Why don't we get down to the bottom of it? If we can't believe in our government and can't have hope in our government, how can this country possibly thrive and survive? How can we come together and be one and be united? It doesn't make sense. So therefore, we need to get to the bottom of these problems. Now, having an organization that stands up for the people, that makes sure that the people are being looked out for and everything that can possibly be done is being done for them, for all of us. This is our nation, to make sure that the right laws are being put in place, things that we want are being put in place, and not the things that we don't want. If we had an organization, one organization fighting for that had the money, that had the people behind it, who could stop us? Who possibly could stop us? The government was built for the people, was built for us. This nation was built for us. So if we go to them and say, we want this changed, we need this fixed, and this is how to do it, this is the system, this is what we've set up, how could they deny us that? If our government truly is corrupt, then sure they will. And obviously it's been built in our system to then we overthrow. We wipe out the whole government system that we have and implement a whole new system, or at least a whole new set of governors and politicians and whatever. But if they're not, we need to start believing in them, and we need to educate the public, saying, listen, the government is doing everything that they possibly can in their power for us. We can't go bad-mouthing them, and we just need to fix it. We can't, that's all we do as a nation, is we run our mouths and we talk about it, but we don't actually act. We don't actually, and a lot of it leads to, we can't. Me individually and everyone watching this individually, no one can cause change. No one can make a single change in this nation by themselves. It takes people. It takes an organization, people coming together, a community, a society to cause change, to make change. That's essentially exactly why I believe an organization needs to be the one to stand up and fight for change. And that is exactly what the One Life organization is. Now our second option, and which is exactly what we're doing now, is we just sit and wait. We wait for the problems to fix themselves. And essentially they will. They'll fix themselves, but definitely not in the way that we want them to. Look at violence. Back in the past, when you would have seen violence, or I've watched all these old shows when children first started to get realized that children were getting taken and homes were getting robbed and people were getting murdered. It was a shock. Everyone, whoa, oh my God, whoa, oh my God. Now we see it every single day on the news. Violence is a very big part of our nature. We see it on TV, we see it in movies, we see it everywhere. What's going to happen? How is it going to fix itself by sitting and waiting? Well, it's just going to become a part of us. No longer is it going to be a problem. It's just going to be something that's a part of America. Does anyone possibly, or really, that's watching this want that? Does anyone believe that America is going to be better, violent, better if all these things were just a part of us? I don't think so. And again, sitting around waiting for change, nothing's going to change. Sitting around waiting for our president and our governors, every year we hear the same, every 4 years, I should say, sorry, we hear the same exact thing. We're going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to fight for this, I'm going to do that. People are wowed and whoa, oh, this one's the one. That's BS. That's sincere BS. How many times have we been like, did exactly what he said he was going to do? Wow. I guess I've heard Clinton. I was a little young then, I would say, to actually be involved. I've heard Clinton, but then I've heard a lot of bad things about Clinton. I've heard distrust on Clinton. Same thing with Bush, same thing with Obama. The things that really need to be changed, I don't believe they've ever been changed. And it's really because we've never got down to the root of the problem. We put all these systems in play, when poverty first started coming around, and homelessness and joblessness. I mean, what do? We put all these things in play. We put in, now you got your unemployment, you have your Social Security, you have your welfare, you have your whatever else systems that are in play, temporary fixes, nothing permanent. We put all these temporary fixes, all this money that's getting poured into trash, temporary fixes. Again, like I said, we need to get down to the root of the problems. As Americans, we need to start standing up. We need to come together. And I'm offering a way for us to do that. I'm offering what I see as the perfect plan to fix this nation. The perfect plan is essentially to have an organization that stands up for the people. Now, the One Life organization has 3 sort of focuses that it focuses on. The first is defend human and civil rights. That's your advocacy. That's us standing up for you. That's us listening to all of you. That's us taking in all the problems, all the information that you give us, and putting it into a computer and researching and getting down to those roots and finding how to solve these problems. That's what we need to do, to solve these problems. Not temporary fixes, to solve them. Everybody should be able to retire. If you work 30 to 40 hours a week from 25 to 60 or 65, whatever it is, if you don't have a retirement, we've failed as a nation. You work your entire life just to struggle when you can't work, and that's exactly how it is. That's exactly how America is set up. You must work, and if you cannot work, you will struggle and you will not survive. Should it be like that? Say someone, gets cancer. Should they struggle? If someone breaks their leg and now they can't be out in the field or whatever they're doing, should they struggle? Because someone can't find a job because maybe the areas, upstate New York, I found that welfare is very huge. And why is it huge? Because there's a lack of jobs. There's certain areas that are so small that the community cannot support itself. And community is really failing in general. They don't have enough work for the amount of people that are there, or don't have enough houses for the amount of people that are there. It's not their fault. we need to help them. We need to build a structure in each and every community, build a foundation in each and every community to make sure that we can all survive without any assistance, without any help, have enough jobs, have enough homes. Should someone be forced to work 50 to 80 hours a week so that way they can survive, so that way they can feed their family? No. And essentially, I guess they're not forced to. But shouldn't everybody be able to survive working 30 to 40 hours a week? I mean, doesn't that make sense? And then working that 30 to 40 hours a week, maybe you can donate or volunteer 10 hours of your time, 5 hours of your time a week to help out your community, to lift up your community. That's why people don't help each other out now. It's because we don't have enough time. We need to make more time. We need to, people say raise wages, which I was completely for in the beginning. But now people have to understand, you can't raise wages. If anything, they need to lower, which that's not going to happen. So they need to stay exactly where they are for many, many years from now. Why are other nations beating us? Why do we have that deficit? People don't know. I know. It's because we don't export. And why don't we export? For one, we sent our businesses overseas and we said, hey, tax write-off, tax write-off, tax write-off. But there's also a second part to that. The average wages overseas, where we import our items from, are about $4 per hour. Our average is what? $10, $15, $20 per hour. Which most of us don't make that, but I'm sure that's the national average. So how can we possibly ever compete with them? How can we compete with the prices if we're paying our employees this crazy amount? We can't. We, as a people, also need to understand that we make how much our dollar is worth. We make that. So our wages, we make that. That $19 an hour, we made that. But guess what? It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. If they're making $4 an hour overseas, they're going to beat us all day long, and people are going to buy it cheaper from them all day long. We've raised our cost of goods. We've raised our wages. We've raised everything to look like we're such a superior and money-filled nation, but really we're drowning. We're drowning ourselves, and we're drowning ourselves exactly by doing that. As well, reading through the news today, I paid attention to how much our politicians, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, past politicians, how much they're spending on their campaigns, how much money they're blowing of essentially our money. It's our money that they have in their hands. That's our money. We feed them. Hillary Clinton, $60 million or $30 million, something crazy. Donald Trump, his is actually quite low, lowest out of anyone, and I actually give him a lot of respect for that. His is like 3 million, I don't know, something very low like that, maybe 1 million. It's just very low. How the hell are we having these people spend that much money on their campaigns? They should be, with $1 million, what could you do? You could give 1 million people $1. That dollar can get them a cheeseburger, get them a drink. Even though that's very minute, in the big scale, they're blowing a ton of money. And as a nation, in general, we are so wasteful. We are probably the most wasteful nation out there. And that waste is our cost of living prices. That waste is the reason that people value their time and don't help other people out. Because we waste time here and there. We have to waste time talking to our phone companies and our cable companies because they throw this on our bill or that on our bill, or this is screwed up or that's screwed up, and we have to go from this person, that person, this call center and that call center. It's a waste. There's so many wasted things in our nation. Cell phone service is a waste. We have how many? Think of this, and these are only our necessities. Restaurants, there should be 1 billion. Clothing stores, 1 billion. Cell phone company, insurance company, phone company, cable company, internet company, utility companies. Why should there be 1 billion of them? Obviously I understand the concept of monopoly. We can't have a monopoly. But what if we had these organizations that were nonprofit of these needs, of the necessities? They weren't gouging, they weren't taking $1 billion a year, $1 million a year as their paychecks. They focused on the people, on serving them. Obviously everybody's going to make their money. People don't understand nonprofits make money too. As a matter of fact, a lot of times they make more money than what they should. Looking at, I guess I can't mention certain nonprofits' names, but all of us know, and you can do the research, they make a lot. They make a ton of money, so they can still survive. A for-profit can become a nonprofit. A cell phone company could be a nonprofit and gain everyone's business. Say there was one cell phone company and they were nonprofit. They couldn't take tons and tons of money from people. They couldn't, the CEOs and executives couldn't make a fortune. They could still make six figures, which they should. They're leaders. They need to lead the companies and continue making better products and a great service for us. But say there was only one, and now all those people, say we have 100 million people that are buying cell phones in America, which is probably much, much higher. So now instead of having 10 million here and 10 million here and 10 million here, 10 million to Samsung, T-Mobile, 10 million to Verizon, 10 million to Boost, instead we'd have 100 million customers going to such and such nonprofit cell phone company. And now instead of having a $100 or a $50 a month bill, now we can cut that in half. They're having everyone. They're gaining everyone's business. They're offering you a great product with a great price. Why wouldn't you go to them for one? And also that's lowering the cost of living. That's obviously just one. Okay, you have cell phone company here. Well, now look at internet, cable. What if all the companies were like that? The necessity companies were like that, and all the prices were slashed. Now you're saving hundreds per month. Hundreds to a poor person is a lot of money. To someone that's wealthy, it's nothing. But to someone that is poor, that needs things, hundreds is a lot. People probably spend about, for a single person, probably maybe $200-300 a month on food. Hundreds is a lot. It's very important. Anyway, I don't want to continue this movie going on too long. Obviously, we're already on 42 minutes, and that is way too long. Anyway, to get back to what I'm saying, the One Life organization, this is why I believe that it's so very important. It's taking the voices of the people and causing change and fixing this nation. It's making this nation greener, caring about our environment, looking at the causes and effects to everything. That's the part that people are missing nowadays. They look at the now and not the future. We need to start looking at the now and the future. And if people can't do it by themselves, we have an organization that can do that. We have an organization of people that are working for this organization or fighting for what they believe, volunteering, whatever it may be, but fighting for one cause, fighting for the better of this nation, fighting to research and fix and solve all of our problems. That is exactly what this nation needs, and there's not one organization out there that is doing that currently. This is what we need, and I hope that every American and every person that watches this video can see that and understand that, and how important this organization is. We need this organization. We need something that is going to change America before we're too far gone. I hope to have more videos in the future, and I hope that you see the sincerity and the honesty behind this video. And you can finally see the reason that I'm starting this organization, the purpose behind this organization, that we need a better future. Our children and our children's children need a better future. They deserve it. We're a smart enough race now. We're a smart enough society now, a smart enough being now, that we can create change. We can fix the issues that we've brought to this nation. We can fix all of our problems, all the problems of the past and all the problems of the current. We can make this nation great again, and we will. Thank you. Bye-bye.